Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajikacharya Stotar Satya's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi, Guru, and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I have a script. My husband and I did this class together yesterday, so I just want to know everyone to know it's been filtered carefully by Srila Prabhupada's disciple, so that I won't make any errors or say anything, that's not proper. The Vyasa-san is Srila Prabhupada sits on the Vyasa-san, but it isn't just his Vyasa-san. It belongs to the sage Vyas and the whole disciplic succession. Sometimes we think that's just Prabhupada's chair, and it's not just only Prabhupada's chair, but it's the chair of the entire disciplic succession. So it's our duty and responsibility in giving class that we represent that carefully and properly. So I feel fortunate. I have my Guru Maharaj and my husband, and they're both very particular about that. So I feel very fortunate in that way. So I should offer my obeisances. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Desitarini. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Virabahu Prabharichi Namine Shri Shri Vrindat Taviraya Padapankaja Daine Prabhupada Anuvadaya Namah Shivaravahari. So I thought I would just read. It's good to understand who Vamana Deva is, especially we're fasting on his for his appearance day, which is tomorrow. He appears on Dvadasi, but we fast today because today is Ekadasi, and it wouldn't be a good idea to try to fast on the day that we break fast on Dvadasi. Does everyone get that? Yeah. Okay. So, but if you're going to fast, don't fast just because you were told to, but or that it's on the calendar. But we fast because it sharpens our senses so that we can be more alert and more careful to remember what are we doing every day? What is our service for? Who are we dedicating our heart and our mind and our soul to? So we're able to really, focus on who is Vamana Deva, and by fasting we can think of him throughout the day. It's only a half-day fast. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhutanam adharmasya tadatma srijam yaham paritranaya sadunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya swabhavami yuge yuge. So whenever and wherever there's a decline in the practice of dharma or religion, and there's a predominant rise in adharma, irreligion, that's when I descend myself. So Vamana Deva, he came for the purpose of setting things right in the kingdom of Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj is a great devotee, a great, extremely charitable personality who was doing his duty as a king, because it's the duty of the king to accumulate things, property, land, buildings, and like that, and to give in charity to citizens. So Paritranaya Sadhunam, Vamana Deva actually came to deliver a sadhu. Bali Maharaj is actually a sadhu in his saintly behavior, but he was being misled by a spiritual master named Sukracharya, who was teaching him to do his dharma for the purpose of gathering a lot of material wealth around him, and for dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, which in itself is not outside of the path of religion, but it isn't pure bhakti. Dharma, artha, kama, and moksha is not pure bhakti. So that's what this story helps us to understand. So the incarnations sometimes seem fantastic, like there's 10 major incarnations, and they seem like, wow, they're so different, every single one of them seems so, like how can Krishna do that? But I'm also inclined to think, and I think it's scriptural to think this way, that if you deny God his personality and attributes and his abilities, then you don't have God anymore. You just have something of your own mental concoction, So why not let God be God? And so that's what I love about Krishna consciousness. I was brought up in a Christian tradition, and I was in Christian school for 6 years, and it's really pretty narrow. I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of rasa to Jesus and all the different parables in the Bible. It's pretty narrow compared to the extremely expansive description that it's even said that Krishna incarnates in 8,400,000 species of life as a super soul. So, there's just so much that we have. There's unlimited incarnations of Krishna, ones that are not mentioned in the 10 avatars. There's when he incarnates as a swan, he incarnates as a woman, he incarnates as Mohini Murti, he incarnates as a fish, he can be a tortoise, so he has, there's no limit to what Krishna can do. And it's whatever and whenever he needs to do that, he takes on the form that's most appropriate for that particular descent. So we start with... Okay, you want to start from there. Okay. Well, yeah, I thought... Yeah, I would like to start with chapter 18, yeah. And then that one we'll do, do this verse and this purport at the end, but I wanted to just read the description of his appearance. So he appears on Dvadasi, he appears to Aditi. I just found out that the Brahmacharini Aditi was initiated on Vamana Dev Appearance Day, and that's how she got the name Aditi. So Aditi is the mother of Lord Vamana. And Kasyapa Muni was a great yogi, and by his intense, very long austerities, he could understand that he could give birth to Vishnu. It was possible for him to do that. That Prabhupada describes that. And so when his wife approached him to have a child, he recommended that she do the Payavrata ceremony, which is a ritual that lasts for 12 days where you fast and just drink milk and say mantras and rise very early and be very clean. And so when they combined, they were able to Vamanadev manifested to them. And this is a description of Vamanadev I just wanted to read. Shukadev Goswami said, after Lord Brahma had thus spoken, glorifying the Supreme Lord's activities and prowess, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never subject to death like an ordinary living being, appeared from the womb of Aditi. His 4 hands were decorated with a conch shell, club, lotus, and disc. He was dressed in yellow garments, and his eyes appeared like the petals of a blooming lotus. The body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, blackish in complexion, was free from all inebrieties. His lotus face, decorated with earrings resembling sharks, appeared very beautiful, and on his bosom was the mark of Shrivats. He wore bangles on his wrists, armlets on his arms, a helmet on his head, a belt on his waist, a sacred thread across his chest, and ankle bells decorating his lotus feet. An uncommonly beautiful garland of flowers decorated his bosom, and because the flowers were extremely fragrant, a large group of bees, making their natural humming sounds, invaded them for honey. When the Lord appeared wearing the Kaustubha gem on his neck, his effulgence vanquished the darkness in the home of Prajapati Kasyapa. At that time there was happiness in all directions, in the reservoirs of water like the rivers and oceans, and in the core of everyone's heart. The various seasons displayed their respective qualities, and all the living entities in the upper planetary system, in outer space and on the surface of the earth, were jubilant. The demigods, the cows, the brahmanas, the hills and the mountains were all filled with joy. On the day of Shravana Dvadasi, the 12th day of the bright fortnight in the moon of Bhadra, when the moon came into the lunar mansion of Shravana at the auspicious moment of Abhijit, the Lord appeared in this universe. Considering the Lord's appearance very auspicious, all the stars and planets, from the sun to Saturn, were munificently charitable. O King, when the Lord appeared on Dvadasi, the 12th day of the moon, the sun was at the meridian, as every learned scholar knows. This Dvadasi is called Vijay. So Vijay is when Kshatriyas are born, or when persons who can do great benefit to human society. That is when the sun is prominent in the chart. When the luminaries are not prominent in the chart, then that's not such ability. Conch shells, kettle drums, panavas, and anakas vibrated in concert. The sound of these and various other instruments were tumultuous. Being very pleased, the celestial dancing girls, apsaras, danced in jubilation. The best of the Gandharvas sang songs, and the great sages, demigods, manus, pitas, fire gods, offered prayers to satisfy the Lord. The siddhas, vidyadharas, kimpurushas, kinnaras, charanas, yakshas, rakshasas, suparnas, the best of serpents and the followers of the demigods all showered flowers on Aditi's residence, covering the entire house, while glorifying and praising the Lord and dancing. When Aditi saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had appeared from her own womb, having accepted a transcendental body by his own spiritual potency, she was struck with wonder and was very happy. Upon seeing the child, Prajapati Kasyapa exclaimed, "Jai, Jai," in great happiness and wonder. The Lord appeared in his original form with ornaments and weapons in his hands. Although this ever-existing form is not visible in the material world, he nonetheless appeared in this form. Then, in the presence of his father and mother, he assumed the form of Vamana, a Brahmana dwarf, a brahmachari, just like a theatrical actor. When the great sages saw the Lord as the brahmachari dwarf Vamana, they were certainly very pleased. Thus they placed before them Kasyapa Muni, the Prajapati, and performed all the ritualistic ceremonies such as the birthday ceremony. So this is Lord Vamana's birthday party, and he gets presents from the demigods. At the sacred thread ceremony of Vamanadev, it's not a birthday, it's appearance day. Yeah. At the sacred thread ceremony of Vamanadev, the sun god personally uttered the Gayatri mantra. Brihaspati offered the sacred thread, and Kasyapa Muni offered a straw belt. Mother Earth gave him a deer skin. The demigod of the moon, who is the king of the forest, gave him a Brahmadanda, the rod of a brahmachari. His mother, Aditi, gave him cloth for underwear, and the deity presiding over the heavenly kingdom offered him an umbrella. O King, Lord Brahma offered a water pot to the inexhaustible Supreme Personality of Godhead. The 7 sages offered him kusha grass. Mother Saraswati gave him a string of rudraksha beads. When Vamadev had thus been given the sacred thread, Kuvera, the king of the Yakshas, gave him a pot for begging alms, and Mother Bhagavati, the wife of Lord Shiva and most chaste mother of the entire universe, gave him his first alms. Having thus been welcomed by everyone, Lord Vamanadev, the best of the brahmacharis, exhibited his Brahman effulgence. Thus he surpassed in beauty that entire assembly which was filled with great saintly brahmanas. After Lord Vamanadev set a sacrificial fire, he offered worship and performed a fire sacrifice on the sacrificial field. When the Lord heard that Bali Maharaj was performing Ashvamedha sacrifices under the patronage of Brahmanas belonging to the Bhrigu dynasty, the Supreme Lord, who is full in every respect, proceeded there to show his mercy to Bali Maharaj. By his weight, he pushed down the earth with every step. When engaged in performing the sacrifice in the field known as Bhrigu Kacha, on the northern bank of the Narmada River, the Brahminical priest, the descendants of Bhrigu, saw Vamanadev to be like the sun rising nearby. O King, because of Vamanadev's bright effulgence, the priests, along with Bali Maharaj and all the members of the assembly, were robbed of their splendor. Thus they began to ask one another whether the sun god himself, Sanat Kumar, or the fire god had personally come to see the sacrificial ceremony. While the priests of the Bhrigu dynasty and their disciples talked and argued in various ways, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev, holding in his hands the rod, the umbrella, and a water pot full of water, entered the arena of the Ashvamedha sacrifice. Appearing as a Brahmana boy, wearing a belt of straw, a sacred thread, an upper garment of deerskin, and matted locks of hair, Lord Vamanadev entered the arena of sacrifice. His brilliant effulgence diminished the brilliance of all the priests and their disciples, who thus stood from their seats and welcomed the Lord properly by offering obeisances. Bali Maharaj, jubilant at seeing Lord Vamanadev, whose beautiful limbs contributed equally to the beauty of his entire body, offered him a seat with great satisfaction, thus offering a proper reception to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls. Bali Maharaj worshipped him by washing his lotus feet. So you notice some people were arguing in the assembly, but Bali Maharaj immediately understood who this person was. Or he had an idea. His heart was pure. Lord Shiva, the best of demigods, who carries on his forehead the emblem of the moon, receives on his head with great devotion the Ganges water emanating from the toe of Vishnu. Being aware of religious principles, Bali Maharaj knew this. Consequently, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva, he also placed on his head the water that had washed the Lord's lotus feet. Bali Maharaj then said to Lord Vamanadev, "O Brahmana, I offer you my hearty welcome and my respectful obeisances. Please let us know what we may do for you. We think of you as the personified austerity of the great Brahmana sages. O my Lord, because you have kindly arrived at our home, all my forefathers are satisfied, our family and entire dynasty have been sanctified, and the sacrifice we are performing now is complete because of your presence. O son of a Brahmana, today this fire of sacrifice is ablaze, according to the injunction of the Shastra, and I have been freed from all the sinful reactions of my life by the water that has washed your lotus feet. O my Lord, by the touch of your small lotus feet, the entire surface of the world has been sanctified. O son of a Brahmana, it appears that you have come here to ask me for something. Therefore, whatever you want, you may take from me. O best of those who are worshipable, you may take from me a cow, gold, a furnished house, palatable food and drink, the daughter of a Brahmana for your wife, prosperous villages, horses, elephants, chariots, or whatever you desire. So that ends the chapter 18. But I'd like to go, in order to understand, I had a really hard time deciding what to read, because this entire book is about Vamana, almost, except the last chapter is about Matsya. But, and even before this, there's also about Kasyapa Muni. So going to the good part. Okay, there's plenty of good parts, so I'm not going to reserve it. I really like the part about him appearing and the demigods surrendering so many nice gifts to him, because they're completely on the same page with him about what his mission was. And that's just really beautiful. And the offerings that they made. The demigods are pure devotees. They're sakama. They have material desire and desire for material enjoyment and pleasure, and they're surrounded by opulent things. But they're also pure devotees of Krishna. And that's why they have the responsibility and the opportunity to take care of such wealth and take care of the material universes. So going to text 19, text 18, chapter 19, thank you, Gopinath Prabhu. Bali Maharaj said, okay, so a little tiny background. Bali Maharaj said, I'll give you whatever you want. And so at this point, he's repeating the same thing basically. O son of a Brahmana, your instructions are as good as those of a learned and elderly person. Nonetheless, you are a boy and your intelligence is insufficient. Because the way Vamana responds to Bali Maharaj offering him everything practically, Vamana responds by saying, well, I only want 3 steps of land. So he says, your instructions are as good as those of a learned elderly person. Nonetheless, you are a boy and your intelligence is insufficient. Thus, you are not very prudent in regard to your own self-interest. I am able to give you an entire island because I am the proprietor of the 3 divisions of the universe. You have come to take something from me and have pleased me by your sweet words. But you are asking only for 3 pieces of land. Therefore, you are not very intelligent. O small boy, one who approaches me to beg something should not have to ask anything more, anywhere. Therefore, if you wish, you may ask from me as much land as will suffice to maintain you according to your needs. So, Krishna's response, he keeps driving more and more and more. He doesn't let up. The personality of Godhead said, "O my dear king, even the entirety of whatever there may be within the 3 worlds to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled." Now, that's a very good purport, but I'm going to read a purport at the end. Text 22. If I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possessed 1 island, I would not hope to get others. I would hope to get others. Text 23. We have heard that although powerful kings like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Gaya achieved proprietorship over the 7 dvipas, they could not achieve satisfaction or find the end of their ambitions. One should be satisfied with whatever he achieves by his previous destiny, for discontent can never bring happiness. A person who is not self-controlled will not be happy even with possessing the 3 worlds. So that's a very important thing, that one of the major qualities of a Brahmana is to always be satisfied. if a Brahmana is walking around and complaining, then you can know that he's maybe reverting back to his material personality. So we have to be on guard. Some people are born naturally satisfied, and others of us are not satisfied, and we're always looking for more. We have kama, krodha, and lobha in our hearts. So we have to practice by our sadhana bhakti to become satisfied. Okay, so going on to the next section. This is chapter 21, text 29. Yes, thank you. So at this point, Bali Maharaj is tied up by the ropes of Varuna. Oh no, he isn't yet. He isn't yet, I'm sorry. So he's about to be tied up by the ropes of Varuna because he doesn't keep his promise. Now it's important to remember, and someone told me this morning, that giving up for Krishna does not incur any loss. When we give everything to Krishna, we're not the losers in any way. In fact, we're actually the greatest gainers. We get the best. So we can see that from this pastime. O king of the demons, you have promised to give me 3 steps of land, but I have occupied the entire universe with the 2 steps. Now think about it. Where should I put my 3rd step? As far as the sun and moon shine with the stars, and as far as the clouds pour rain, all the land throughout the universe is in your possession. Of these possessions, with 1 step I have occupied Borloka, and with my body I've occupied the entire sky in all directions. And in your presence, with my 2nd step, I have occupied the upper planetary system. So Vamanadev grew and grew and grew. He was a dwarf Brahmana, just some adorable little child, like we have so many adorable children here on Watsika Avenue that from the families here. But he was, beyond that, just effulgent and blissful and smiling. And then all of a sudden he became something that was like a changing bodies exhibit, only without the birth, death, old age, and disease, just complete effulgence, and just such a grand spectacle that no one could even possibly believe that the way he was growing. Of these possessions, with 1 step I have occupied, I've occupied Borloka and my body, and I've occupied the entire sky. I have occupied the upper planetary system. Because you have been able to give charity according to your promise, the rule is that you should go down. You have not been able to give charity according to your promise. The rule is that you should go down to live in the hellish planets. So there's very strict rules in the Vedic formularies that for persons doing sacrifices, we don't do that nowadays, but in former yugas, if a Brahmana came to you and he asked for charity, like we saw that with in the Mahabharata, when Radeya, Karna, he actually gave his golden earrings and his shield from off of his body. He gave that away, and that was what defeated him in the Mahabharata battle. So if someone comes to you and asks for charity at the moment of the time that you're performing a yajna, then you are completely required to. And the consequences of not giving in charity at that point is that you have to live in hellish conditions. Therefore, in accordance with the order of Sukracharya, your spiritual master, now go down and live there. So you can see a little boy saying, just you go down there, get out of here. So, far from being elevated to the heavenly planets or fulfilling one's desire, one who does not properly give a beggar what he has promised falls down to hellish condition of life. Being falsely proud of your possessions, you promised to give me land. You could not fulfill your promise. Therefore, because your promise was false, you must live for a few years in hellish life. So this was extreme chastisement, just really going beyond what, And even Bali Maharaj, when he speaks, he's going to speak further in here. He says, what you've done to me is like way beyond what a mother or father would do to their child, or what how a spiritual master would chastise his disciple. And he said, but I take it as the very best and greatest thing that's ever happened to me, the best benediction. So that's really, I have to say, when I came to the Krishna consciousness movement, if they had written a job description of all the things I'd have to do to surrender to be a devotee of Krishna, I think I would have not put that aside and left, So you don't know what's around the corner, and according to your own body, mind, and senses, and the karma that's in your heart, we don't know what, and our interaction with the society of devotees, we don't know what's going to come down, but it's all worth it. Because the experience of Krishna consciousness, it fully outweighs the, hanging on to the material stuff that's hiding inside of us, that's going to emerge. So now going to the one that I wanted to read, and I thought we could all chant this verse. This is text 11, chapter 22, canto 8. Athāham ātma-ripos, I don't know, I didn't practice this. Athāham ātma-ripos tavāntikaṁ. Daivena nītaḥ prasabhaṁ tyājita-śrīḥ. Idam kṛtāntāntika-varti jīvitam. Yayādhruvaṁ stabdha-matir budhyate. Athāham ātma-ripos tavāntikam. Daivena nītaḥ prasabhaṁ tyājita-śrīḥ. Idam kṛtāntāntika-varti jīvitam. Yayādhruvaṁ stabdha-matir budhyate. Only by providence. Okay, please repeat. Would anyone like to repeat it? Just go ahead. Okay. Only by providence have I been forcibly brought under your lotus feet and deprived of all my opulence. Because of the illusion created by temporary opulence, people in general who live under material conditions, facing accidental death at every moment, do not understand that this life is temporary. Only by providence have I been saved from that condition. Purport. Bali Maharaj appreciated the actions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although all the members of the demoniac families except Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj considered Vishnu their eternal traditional enemy. As described by Bali Maharaj, Lord Vishnu was actually not the enemy of the family, but the best friend of the family. The principle of this friendship has already been stated. Yasyaham anugrihami harishyetam dhanam janai. The Lord bestows special favor upon his devotee by taking away all his material opulences. Bali Maharaj appreciated this behavior by the Lord. Therefore he said, daivena nītaḥ prasabhaṁ tyājita-śrīḥ. It is to bring me to the right platform of eternal life that you have put me into these circumstances. Actually, everyone should fear this so-called society, friendship, and love for which he works so hard all day and night, as indicated by Bali Maharaj by the words janad bitaha. Every devotee in Krishna consciousness should always be afraid of the common man engaged in pursuing material prosperity. Such a person is described as pramata, a madman chasing the will of the wisp. Such men do not know that after a hard struggle for life, one must change his body, with no certainty of what kind of body he will receive next. Those who are completely established in Krishna conscious philosophy and who therefore understand the aim of life will never take to the activities of the materialistic dog race. But if a sincere devotee somehow falls down, the Lord corrects him and saves him from gliding down to the darkest region of hellish life. Adanta gobir vishitam tamishram punah punascharvita charvananam. The materialistic way of life is nothing but the repeated chewing of that which has already been chewed. Although there is no profit in such a life, people are enamored of it because of uncontrolled senses. Nunam pramate kurute vikarma. Because of the uncontrolled senses, people fully engage in sinful activities by which they get a body full of suffering. Bali Maharaj appreciated how the Lord had saved him from such a bewildered life of ignorance. He therefore said that his intelligence had been stunned. Stabdha-matir na budhyate. He could not understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead favors his devotees by forcibly stopping their materialistic activities. So, I wanted to mention just one last thing. We have a little bit more time. Starting August 9th and ending September 13th is a special period of time. Does anyone know what that is? I'm sure someone knows. Last month, August 9th, up to this coming up September 13th is, I'm sure someone knows. No, it's not like an official thing. It's something that Prabhupada did. Yeah, he boarded the Jaladuta August 9th, and then he arrived in America September 13th in New York. So, and he experienced a lot of trouble, a lot of, he had to undergo, huge waves in the ocean and fog and seasickness, and he wrote in his diary, you can understand that he experienced a heart attack on the boat. And so, and then when he got here, he wasn't greeted, there wasn't anyone to, meet him at the boat. But I'm thinking that he's something like Vamana Dev. And, Prabhupada is a Shakti Vaishnava, so he's also in the line of Vamana Dev. Because, so for instance, starting from 1924 to 1964, I've researched this, Indians weren't really allowed to come into America very much. There was this thing called the Asiatic Barred Zone, because now there's all this immigration hassle that people are going through. So it was starting in 1964 that they got rid of that rule in America. So at that time, Indians started coming in. So at that time, there wasn't really a lot of immigration from India. Prabhupada was one of the very first. There was a little bit, but not very much. And even to stay here, they kept trying to renew his visa, and it wasn't so easy. He was coming with the greatest message, with as like Lord Vamana Devi, he was coming in like a needle and out like a plow, And what he had to give was so very valuable, but he was being unwelcome, in many ways. And he went to sit in a park by himself, just under a tree, and was chanting. And he didn't even have musical instruments. He was writing his godbrothers in India, can you just send me a mridanga? And he wasn't even able to get that. So he just had kartals, And he didn't really have some legal place to go chant or some kind like we do. Like we always know our spots or whatever. And so, but then people gathered around him. So I was thinking that the first step that he took as Lord Vamana Dev, if you compare Prabhupada to Vamana Dev, was hearing. That he initiated the process of hearing in America, hearing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And from that, he was able to take all of the other steps. If there's no foundation of hearing, then everything else, Prabhupada said this, what is the use of your Hari Hari Bol if you're not actually engaged in hearing, So the foundation of hearing and chanting, and he was able to enchant the disciples that he made and the people who gathered around him. And then I was thinking the second step he took was that he engaged devotees in the culture of Krishna consciousness, like prasadam and kirtan and restaurants and temples and cultural community and like that. But then I was wondering if we could understand what the third step would be, if anyone has an idea what the third step would be, because I think what did Bali Maharaj have to do? He had to give everything, right? So what would you say, Bhurgupati? Taking over the whole world. That's the way Bhurgupati thinks. Yeah. Well, I was thinking more for myself, more selfishly, is I was thinking how Bali Maharaj is an example of ātma-nivedanam. And so I was thinking that at this point in my life, I'm getting older, I'm just saying this publicly isn't going to do it, but to actually give up my material inclinations and to to actually, surrender myself. There's Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma-nivedanam. There's a personality that represents each one. And I don't know all of them. I think Lakshmi Devi represents Padasevanam. And can anyone think of any of the others? Shukadev Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. Krura is Vandanam. And Prahlad, he's one. Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. Arjuna is Sakyam. Yeah. So the last one is Atma-nivedanam. And that's Bali Maharaj because he was tied up and he lost everything. He lost his fame, he lost his position, he lost, his family, his kingdom, his wealth. He lost his dignity, his very sense of personal dignity, and he was just tied up, but he didn't flinch. He just gave himself willingly, and he'd be completely subordinated. Well, just please take my head. And then Vamana could put his lotus foot on Bali Maharaj's head. So I was just thinking that, this is just imagining, but I think Prabhupada wants us to go back to Godhead. So that was what my idea of what the third step would be, was that we actually surrender ourselves to the idea that we're actually going to be able to make the journey back to Godhead and surrender ourselves to that opportunity to leave the material world and leave material existence permanently and leave all of that material conditioning behind us and go back to Godhead. So that's a very big step when you start thinking about it more when you get older, So thank you very much for listening, and does anyone have any comments or questions? No. All glories to... Oh, yes?
Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Prabhu, very festive, and it was really nice reading everything. There is a particular verse from the 18th chapter, verse 28. It says, Lord Shiva, the best of the demigods, who carries on his forehead the emblem of the moon, receives on his head with great devotion the Ganges water emanating from the toe of Vishnu. Being aware of this, Bali Maharaj followed in the footsteps of Lord Shiva and placed the water that he bathed Lord Vamanadev's feet with. So I was just thinking, they're washing his feet, and then Bali Maharaj thinks, oh, just like Shiva took the Ganges on his head, let me take the water of this Abhishek water on my head. But the Ganges came because Lord Vamanadev pierced a hole in the universe, right? So how is it that that they already knew about the Ganges? I'm not sure about.
You mean the chronology of it?
Yeah, the chronology.
Yeah. Well, also we should remember that Prabhupada said that these incarnations are like a traveling road show. So they're happening like this incarnation of Vamanadev is happening somewhere else right now in some other universe. So it's in other words, chronology in Bhagavatam isn't considered to be so important, although I understand what you're saying. Like, Brigapati, do you have an answer for that? No. Yeah.
It seems like an anachronism. At face value, it seems like an anachronism. But I don't know, maybe it happened before, like you just said. It's cyclical. I mean, was this the first appearance of? Is this the first time this pastime had been happened? Because maybe this pastime had happened previously, and he was aware of it. Otherwise, I mean, at face value, it sounds like an anachronism, which was a good catch on his part. It sounds he's awake, he's listening, and
anachronism means something that's not time.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
time.
Chronism, time,
time
against time. So it's not because it didn't happen yet. the Ganges River.
I got this idea in my mind that maybe Bali Maharaj, because he's a Mahajan, he already knows everything about Lord Vishnu, and so he knew that the water from the Ganges emanates from the toe of Lord Vishnu,
Yeah.
and he already knew about Vamana Dev.
Let's do some research and see if we can come up with an answer.
All right. Anybody else? Thank you very much for listening and tolerating. Hare Krishna.